This is the site where American astronauts Neil Armstrong and Edwin Buzz Aldrin made the first human landing on the moon on July 20th, 1969. Armstrong and Aldrin landed here aboard the lunar module Eagle, while Michael Collins remained in orbit around the moon in the command module Columbia. Armstrong and Aldrin conducted one extravehicular activity, EVA, or moonwalk, on the lunar surface lasting 2 hours, 31 minutes 40 seconds, remaining within 60 meters of the lunar module. They collected 21.55 kilograms of lunar sample material for return to the Earth. In this LRO NACC view of the landing site, the descent stage of the Eagle is the largest man-made object visible. The dark tracks of the astronauts' footprints extend out from it, clustered primarily in 3 directions. To the northwest, the tracks extend to the location where the astronauts set up a TV camera. To the south, tracks extend to where a lunar ranging retroreflector and the passive seismic experiment package were deployed. To the east, the tracks extend to the rim of Little West Crater. The landing site is in the southwest part of Mar Tranquilatus, an area characterized by extensive deposits of mare basalt lava rock. This is the site where American astronauts Charles Pete Conrad and Alan Bean made the second human landing on the moon on November 19th, 1969. Conrad and Bean landed here aboard the lunar module Intrepid, while Richard Gordon remained in orbit around the moon in the command module Yankee Clipper. Apollo 12 demonstrated the key capability of a precision landing, with Intrepid touching down less than 200 meters from the site where the Surveyor 3 probe had landed on April 20th, 1967. Unlike Apollo 11, the mission plan deliberately targeted the landing site to be close to a number of impact craters. This enabled collection of samples from the subsurface that had been excavated by the formation of the craters. Conrad and Bean conducted 2 EVAs on the lunar surface. The first, lasting 3 hours, 56 minutes, extended to the northwest for deployment of the ALSEP instrument package, and then continued to the rim of a 350-meter diameter crater dubbed Middle Crescent. The second EVA, lasting 3 hours, 49 minutes, was a loop trip of 1.5 kilometers around several craters to the south, including retrieval of a camera from Surveyor 3. They collected 34.35 kilograms of lunar sample material for return to the Earth. In this LRO NACC view of the landing site, the descent stage of the Intrepid is the largest man-made object visible. The dark tracks of the astronauts' footprints extend out from it. To the northwest, the tracks extend about 130 meters to where components of the ALSEP can be seen. About 160 meters to the southeast of Intrepid, Surveyor 3 is visible with a dense cluster of footprints around it. The landing site, located at 3.01 S, 23.42 Ws, is in the southern part of Oceanus Procellarum, an area characterized by extensive deposits of basalt significantly younger than that at the Apollo 11 site. The site also provided the first samples of creep, material rich in potassium, phosphorus, and rare earth elements. The potential for sampling ejecta from one of the rays extending from the crater Copernicus added to the attractiveness of the site. This is the site where American astronauts Alan Shepard and Edgar Mitchell made the third human landing on the moon on February 5, 1971. Shepard and Mitchell landed here aboard the lunar module Antares, while Stuart Rosa remained in orbit around the moon in the command module Kitty Hawk. Shepard and Mitchell conducted 2 EVAs on the lunar surface. The first, lasting 4 hours, 47 minutes, 50 seconds, that extended to the west for deployment of the ALSEP instrument package, included collection of a contingency sample and covered a total distance of about 550 meters. The second EVA, lasting 4 hours, 34 minutes, 41 seconds, was intended to visit Cone Crater, 370 meters in diameter, and located approximately 1.2 kilometers to the northeast. To help transport the load of equipment and retrieve samples on this EVA, the astronauts were equipped with a hand-pulled cart, the Modular Equipment Transporter, MET. The rough, hummocky terrain made navigation difficult during the second EVA, and the astronauts were not able to identify the rim of Cone Crater, though later imagery showed that they reached a point about 20 meters south of the crater rim. Shepard and Mitchell collected 42.82 kilograms of lunar sample material for return to the Earth. In this LRO NAC CU of the landing site, the descent stage of the Antares is the largest man-made object visible. The dark tracks of the astronauts' footprints from the first EVA extend to the west, where components of the ALSEP are visible. Extending to the northeast of Antares' landing site, the track of the astronauts' footprints and the tracks of the Mateed's wheels can be traced toward Cone Crater. The landing site, located at 3.65 s, 17.47 Ws, was selected largely with the goal of sampling material from the Imbrium Basin impact, whose ejecta covers much of this area, known as the Fra Mauro Formation. This is the site where American astronauts David Scott and James Irwin made the fourth human landing on the moon on July 30th, 1971. Scott and Irwin landed here aboard the lunar module Falcon, while Alfred Worden remained in orbit around the moon in the command module Endeavour. This was the first of the Apollo J missions. These featured a greater emphasis on conducting science on the moon, along with longer stays on the lunar surface. The J missions also included a lunar rover, which allowed the astronauts to drive across the lunar surface, covering far greater areas and carrying back more sample material. Scott first conducted a 33-minute stand-up EVA, surveying and imaging the local terrain through the upper hatch of the lunar module. Scott and Irwin then conducted 3 surface EVAs. The first, lasting 6 hours, 32 minutes, 42 seconds, involved deploying the lunar rover and driving in it on a 10.3-kilometer geological traverse. They drove southwest to the edge of Hadley Rille and then continued south along the edge of the Rille. At the end of the first surface EVA, they deployed the Apollo Lunar Surface Experiments Package, ALSEP, approximately 110 meters north-northwest of the lunar module. The second surface EVA, lasting 7 hours, 12 minutes, 14 seconds, featured a 12.5-kilometer lunar rover traverse southeast across the Mare and along the base of the Apennine Mountains. The third surface EVA, lasting 4 hours, 49 minutes, 50 seconds, had the astronauts making a 5.1-kilometer traverse west to Hadley Rille, northwest along the edge of the Rille, and east across the Mare back to the lunar module. Scott and Irwin collected 77 kilograms of lunar sample material for return to the Earth. In this LRO-NAC view of the landing site, the descent stage of the Falcon is the largest man-made object visible. The dark markings of the astronauts' footprints and rover tire tracks are visible around the landing site, especially extending to the north-northwest, where components of the ALSEP are visible. The landing site, located at 26.113 N, 3.63 E, was selected to provide access to the basalt of Mar Imbrium. The stratigraphy revealed in the deep channel of Hadley Rille carved by flowing lava and mountain material from the front of the Apennine Range. Acknowledgements to LPI's Apollo Surface Operations Descriptions and NASA's Apollo Surface Journal. This is the site where American astronauts John Young and Charles Duke made the 5th human landing on the moon on April 21, 1972. Young and Duke landed here aboard the lunar module Orion, while Ken Mattingly remained in orbit around the moon in the command module Casper. Young and Duke conducted 3 surface EVAs. The first, lasting 7 hours, 11 minutes, 2 seconds, included deploying the Apollo Lunar Surface Experiments Package, ALSEP, approximately 95 meters southwest of the lunar module, and conducting a geologic traverse using the lunar rover to a couple of small craters within about 1,400 meters to the west of the landing site. The second surface EVA, lasting 7 hours, 23 minutes, 9 seconds, featured an 11.1-kilometer lunar rover drive south to the Cinco crater area of Stone Mountain, making stops at 5 stations along the way. The third surface EVA, lasting 5 hours, 40 minutes, 3 seconds, had the astronauts making 11.4-kilometer traverse north to North Ray crater. Young and Duke collected 95.71 kilograms of lunar sample material for return to the Earth. In this LRO-NAC view of the landing site, the descent stage of the Orion is the largest man-made object visible, within a dark halo on the western rim of a 30-meter crater. The dark markings of the astronauts' footprints and rover tire tracks are visible around the landing site, especially extending to the southwest, where components of the ALSEP are visible. With the previous Apollo landings having focused on the low, flat, basaltic terrain of the lunar Maria or seas, Apollo 16 was the first crewed mission to visit the lunar highlands. The landing site, located at 8.97S, 15.50E, was located on the boundary of two highland geologic units, the Descartes Formation and the Cayley Formation. Both units were thought to be volcanic in nature, but composed of lavas with higher silica content than the basaltic rocks of the Maria. The Descartes Formation was widely thought to be rhyolite. However, the astronauts quickly discovered on their traverses that the rocks around them were overwhelmingly breccias. The great surprise of Apollo 16 was the discovery that the highland terrain was not silicic lava, but fluidized ejecta from a great basin forming impact, and that the rocks were crustal material, largely anorthosite and gabbro. This is the site where American astronauts Eugene Cernan and Harrison Schmidt made the sixth and final Apollo human landing on the moon on December 11, 1972. Cernan and Schmidt landed here aboard the lunar module Challenger, while Ronald Evans remained in orbit around the moon in the command module America. Harrison Schmidt, a professional geologist, was the first scientist to go to the moon. Their destination, the Taurus-Littrow Valley deeper than Earth's Grand Canyon, provided a spectacular setting with opportunities to study ancient highland crust from the surrounding towering mountains, as well as the possibility to explore what some thought might be some of the moon's youngest volcanic features. Cernan and Schmidt conducted 3 surface EVAs, extravehicular activities. The first, lasting 7 hours, 11 minutes, 53 seconds, included deploying the Apollo Lunar Surface Experiments Package, LSEP, approximately 180 meters west of the lunar module, and conducting a 3.3-kilometer round-trip geologic traverse using the lunar rover to Station 1 near Steno Crater, south of Challenger's landing site. The second surface EVA, lasting 7 hours, 36 minutes, 56 seconds, featured a 20.4-kilometer round-trip lunar rover journey to the south and west. On this EVA, the astronauts collected samples of ancient highlands material that had been deposited on the valley floor in gigantic landslide deposits at the base of the mountain South Massif. They also crossed a fault scarp and collected specimens from a dark haloed crater that some suspected of being an example of relatively recent lunar volcanic activity. Cernan and Schmidt got out of the rover and conducted detailed examinations at 4 stops during the second EVA. They also made 8 additional brief stops to collect samples while remaining in the rover. The third surface EVA, lasting 7 hours, 15 minutes, 8 seconds, had the astronauts making a 12.0 kilometers round-trip traverse north and east to the slopes of North Massif and the sculptured hills. Cernan and Schmidt got out of their rover and conducted detailed examinations at 4 stops during their third EVA and made 4 additional brief stops to collect samples while remaining in the rover. Cernan and Schmidt collected a total of 115 kilograms of lunar sample material for return to the Earth.